Hey guys, I got about 68 minutes to go before I clock in. Yes, I have been here since 10:26. The reason I haven't uploaded anything on camera wise up until now is because I already uploaded several bits of content onto my YouTube page before I left this morning. Most of the content I recorded audio wise yesterday when I was at home. I also did upload those audios to my BW Roses Discussions podcast, which you can find at all various podcast locations except for Pandora. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to kind of follow up on something I talked about the other day before I started work, and it has to do with the ALF series finale and the cliffhanger that it ended on. Now, I talked about storyline-wise why I believe that Alf in the series finale called Consider Me Gone was left behind. Long story short, I believe basically his fellow Malmachians, Skip and Rhonda, who were coming to get him, they only had fuel for one trip. This is something I found out recently, going back and watching the episode. They only had fuel for one trip. Now, there's nothing saying that they couldn't go back to the new planet, refuel, and then eventually come back and get Alf. There's nothing saying that that can't happen or couldn't happen, because honestly, I think we as fans know that that's a possibility that, they could have, went with in the fifth season had a fifth season officially been done. But when I look at the Alf, finale, the series finale, the way it was done originally with the to be continued and all that, to me, this has got to be, a lesson. It's got to be a lesson that I don't know why no studios out there, whether it's, Warner Brothers that was behind Alf, whether it's, animation studios, like Dick Animation, now owned by WildBrain, that, put out Sonic the Hedgehog's Saturday, or any other, shows out there, live action or animated, that ended the series, on a cliffhanger. I mean, sure, they probably all had intentions to have another season to conclude that, or to conclude the cliffhanger and all that, but unfortunately they never got those, new seasons to make that happen. Some, like Alf, did get a movie to kind of fulfill, kind of fill in those gaps, even though that movie took place about 6 years, 5.5 years later. The point that I'm getting at is when I look at, these cliffhanger finales that are originally meant to be season finales, turning out to be series ones, I look at the fact that hopefully by now, again, because I don't know if the lesson's already been learned, but back then and hopefully now, a lot of studios, directors, people behind, these shows and stuff, they should have a contingency plan. And that contingency plan being to make sure they already have the series finale planned out in advance. That's what they need to do. They need to make sure they have the series finale planned out, written up, and ready to go well in advance. Even before, let's say, the first season begins, or even the second season begins, or the middle of the first season goes into its annual hiatus before coming back with new episodes. They need to make sure they have a plan, ready to go. They need to make sure that that script of the final episode of that show, animated or live action, is set and ready to be filmed in case anything happens. Because if they don't have something like that, then basically you end up getting things like what we got with Alf, what we got with Sonic Saturday, and many others. You end up getting that. Even with movies. Movies, have done this too. More rarely than a series, but they've done it too. And it's all because, again, the director and their team behind it, the writing team, if you will, the creators, you know, it's all because of the fact that they don't plan out things well in advance. And to me, they need to. The one thing that makes some of these franchise of movies and stuff turn out to be good, if you will, with various sequels that follow, is that the director, along with the writing team, has the scripts already set to go for those movies. And they have them ready to go just in case maybe, even though it may not be a box office success, it becomes a big enough success to where not only do they make the money back, but it's enough to warrant a sequel to be released, be made and released, I should say. So to me, I look at, situations, like Alf and Sonic SatAM and many others, television-wise and feature film-wise, as prime examples of not having a plan. Now, according to Paul Flasco, the guy that did Al's voice, the one that was the main person behind the series happening in the first place, he was promised a fifth season. He said that he was promised by Brandon Todikoff that a fifth season was going to happen. But when Todikoff left to take over at Paramount, that pretty much shuttered any opportunity. And of course, it was at a time when networks had a new deal reached out to where, hey, they don't have to worry about having licensed products to air in prime time, for various seasons. They can create their own. But be that as it may, if you will, be that as it may, Paul should have already had, this finale ready and in the can, as well as have the ideas for a fifth season, at least the elements of that, thrown into that finale, into season 4, if you will, to basically build up to to the moment that I think a lot of fans were hoping would happen in Consider Me Gone, but didn't because of the cliffhanger we were given. He should have known better. He should have been like, you know what? I'm hearing rumblings and rumors that, we may or may not get a fifth season. So you know what? I'm gonna put all my eggs in one basket right now and go from there just in case. And if he gets a fifth season, then fine. All he has to do is maybe come up with a different idea. While he's, maybe come up with at least a general idea script-wise of what the fifth season would be like. If he finds out, hey, we are getting a fifth season, so I'm gonna have to come up with a different idea. Maybe give us an idea of what, the journey back to New Melmac's going to be like for Alf and his friends. Who knows? I mean, that's one way to look at it. The same with Sonic SatAM. Ben Hur said he had tons of plans for season 3, but he couldn't get them executed due to the fact that the show got canceled after season 2 and left on a cliffhanger. And now you got fans that are basically doing what they can to make sure that cliffhanger, gets resolved once and for all. The point that I'm getting at, like I said, is if you're someone that, is behind a series like an Alf, like an Alf series, then you need to make sure that if you have a series finale, or at least an idea of what the series finale is going to be, then you need to maybe execute those plans and, sooner rather than later. Because if you hold off on it because you believe you're going to get a fifth season and that fifth season doesn't materialize, then you're going to look like, you're going to look like a huge fool. That's what you're going to look like. I mean, yes, he got Project Alf. He got that as sort of closure for the entire series, but according to places like Secret Galaxy and other, YouTube outlets, Paul Flasco as Alf, if you will, portraying Alf, has tried to write off in recent years that Project Alf was canon, even though Secret Galaxy would come out and say, by asking the question, is it canon to the show? And they would say yes. Flasco would come out, as the Alf character and say, kind of in a way that no, I don't want to talk about Project Alf because maybe he doesn't really consider it canon, because of the way, it ended, or maybe the way it came about. I'm not really sure. But yeah, you end up looking I guess you could say you end up looking like you got tons of egg, if you will, on your face because of the fact that you didn't start maybe considering, okay, perhaps I should start executing and filming the finale for the show now in season 4, put elements in there now here in season 4 because of the rumblings and rumors that that he might have been hearing of. Oh, there won't be a 5th season, but we will try to do this for you, and nothing really materializes. So to me, in the long run, if you are somebody like a Paul Flasco that got Alf off the ground, made it a reality, but didn't get a proper continuation, if you will, the way you originally planned, or you didn't get basically the kind of closure you were hoping, but you were hoping for, even though you kind of did. If I'm Paul Flasco, if I was Paul Flasco, I would have made sure that basically things would have gone a different direction. They would have gone a different way, in my opinion. So I was a little distracted there. But yeah, if I was him, I would have taken everything I was hearing about, not getting a 5th season, maybe getting a film to close out things, and say, you know what, I'm not going to take my chances, I'm going to do it this way. And that's what I would have done. And the same thing with Ben Hurst. I know Ben Hurst had all the intention in the world. We as fans were all giddy and excited for that 3rd season, which never officially came to be, back in the mid-90s. Had Ben Hurst found out what we did, which I think he did find out, but if they would have found out way before, if I'm Ben Hurst and the crew that was working on season 2, I would have said, Doomsday, we cut it off here. We don't show the red eyes, we don't show Snively rising, and ascending to be the new final boss, if you will. We cut it off here, they've won, the war's over, that's it. And that would have been more satisfying in the end because, basically you're not having to deal with any kind of conflict or controversy because you ended on a cliffhanger, and that wasn't your intention to end it on a cliffhanger in the first place, because your intention was end on a cliffhanger but concluded in the 3rd season, which never happened. And that's why we have fan groups like Team C, or fan-oriented, fan-sponsored teams, financial supported teams like Team Season, doing what they can to make this happen. But again, when you look at something like Alf as well, as I was mentioning, Paul should have at least had a contingency plan. Like as soon as he heard the rumors, that something's going to probably happen that will affect the series in a negative way, then basically take the plans you had for that final season, that final episode, and basically do what you have to do do what you have to do with it in the 4th season, so that when you eventually do find out that there's not going to be a new season and there may not be a movie, as a constellation, then you pretty much could be like, okay, that's fine, no problem. I have everything ready to go now to close out the series properly. And that would have worked. That would have worked, in my opinion. But again, hopefully this is a lesson. Hopefully this is a lesson that a lot of directors, writers, creators on various series and movies nowadays have learned. And if they haven't, I'm surprised. But hopefully nowadays they have learned about, making sure that they have a backup plan just in case something happens that could screw, the original plans up. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I know I sound like I rambled a little bit here. I do apologize. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. And until next time, I will talk to you all later. And yes, you will get an audio podcast version of this later. Peace.